Greetings and salutations, this is Imperator Vespasian and his trusty sidekick.
Hello.
Today we're bringing you the Type 97 Chi-Ha main battle tank used by the Japanese during the Second World War. This is the earlier version, although this version did actually stay in production, which has the 57mm howitzer rather than the 47mm anti-tank gun, because there are two versions. There's a new turret version which has the anti-tank gun fitted to it. So this is the standard, or is it 37? It might have been a 37mm anti-tank gun, I'm not sure. But this is the standard tank used early on in the war. It's only fitted with a howitzer. So for bolt action, a howitzer will give you D6 HE damage, plus 2 penetration, 2D pins. It's not exactly the best howitzer, but it does give you some decent anti-infantry capability. The great thing about the tank, which is good with all Japanese tanks as well as most German tanks, is the amount of machine guns you have. If you check the turret has a machine gun on the back of the turret, and it has a machine gun just there in the hull and another one on the roof. If you watched any of our other videos, then you already know that the rear machine gun turret is not designed to fire to the back of the tank to protect the tank. It's actually designed so the turret will turn around and fire forwards. So the machine gun will be at the front and the howitzer will be at the back, and the machine gun will be used to fire, because you can't fire both at the same time. So that's really handy. That means in bolt action you get 12 machine gun dice.
Unless you lose one from an anti-tank rifle.
Yeah, but you...
from the very beginning of the game, you've got 12 dice.
You've got 12 dice, yeah.
Put a pen... I've got my name for it.
You've got 12 shots.
Yeah, 12 shots to...
Which is technically...
keep the infantry down.
Yeah, it's enough to take out an infantry unit. So that's pretty good. That gives this tank unbelievable firepower compared to most tanks that it will come across, which, if you're lucky, only have one machine gun, which is 4 dice against your machine guns. As for anti-tank ability, it's the same as a cannon, except it's got less firepower, so it only gets one shot. So if I were you, I would keep these out of the way of enemy tanks at all times.
Unless you do a surprise attack.
You'll use the Type 95, your light tanks, to take on enemy tanks, and keep these guys in the rear to take out infantry and give machine gun fire. That's the best thing to do for it, I think.
I'd go with it.
Yeah. Don't ever try and take on enemy tanks with it, because although it's a tank, it's not a tank hunting tank. So it's like the early Panzer IV. It's not got the ability to take on enemy tanks. The whole idea of it being larger and more armoured is so you can it's an infantry support tank, so it can drive forward with the infantry and be pretty much impervious to most of the weapons that the enemy's got. Although it only has 8+ armour. Even though it's a medium tank, its armour's 8+.
Well, back then, an armour of 8+ was a kind of a heavy tank.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, but technically a medium tank is... a medium tank would have 9+ armour, but because the Japanese armour is so weak and they are quite ramshackle, they've only got low armour, so it's only got an 8+. Just like the Type 95 Hargo is classed as an armoured car with only 7+. So it's classed as a light tank basically. So as I said, its main gun is a 57mm howitzer, and it's got a 3 MMGs. So firepower wise, it's actually not a bad vehicle. Cost wise, a veteran version of this will put you back 162 points, so it's not overly expensive.
Depends what resources you've got to spend.
Yeah, it does. So the only special rules it's got, apart from being fanatic because it's Japanese, is it's got the flak ability, so if there's enemy aircraft coming around, you can pop off 4 shots from the roof of the tank, which is always very useful if the enemy's got low flying aircraft. And that's really it. Tactics, we've already gone through tactics.
Tactics. Well, no, my tactic, I want to just do it a little sneakily. See, I'd use them as a distraction. Mainly. Draw them in and then use different types of tanks that you've got. Take out the others.
So, be the big target, be a bullet magnet.
Yes.
That's not a bad tactic.
And then once they've used all their goes, you use your goes. And then you whack them out when they're not expecting it.
Yeah, that's true. That's actually not a bad... That's forward thinking, that is. It's quite well done. As I said, I'd use it as a infantry support vehicle. Basically, massive firepower driving across the battlefield. And it is a light tank after all, and therefore most...
Can take a beating.
Yeah, infantry and stuff aren't going to be able to take them on, especially if you're playing early war. If you're playing later war, then this thing's
gone.
dead. It comes up against a bazooka team, it dies instantly. Even with the bazooka having the hollow point thing slightly less accurate, it's still going to die.
I find it better to play than late war. So.
Yeah, well, we always play early wars, but if you are playing late war with them, then
We played late war before I started YouTube.
yeah, we did. So they don't last long. But it's not bad points wise. Bear in mind the Argo, which is the light tank, which is really little more than an armoured car. That's only 108 points. This is only 50 odd points more expensive. So it's not a hugely expensive tank compared to some of them, especially the Russian stuff. Your early war Russian tanks, some of them are very, very expensive.
Yeah, how much is 275?
Yeah.
275, but it's like it's like, you know when they called the German army a war machine?
Yeah.
It's like that one tank, that was one Russian tank, it's the whole of that German army.
Oh, the land battleship.
Streaming across the border.
Yeah, yeah. Your multi-turreted 5-turret tank, yeah. It's going to ruin your day.
Unless the Polish get cavalry and just plant grenades on it.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's not a bad tactic. I like your tactic. I like the idea of using it as a...
Decoy.
Yeah, using it as a bullet magnet. So the enemy spend its time shooting at the tank and possibly killing it, whereas your other stuff that can actually do more damage is getting up close. Yeah, that's a good one. That's a nice one. During the war, they did particularly well because the Japanese tended not to come up against too many tanks. The British in Malaya had no tanks, the Americans had no tanks, the Dutch had a few little like dinky winky tanks. The Chinese were the best equipped, but they didn't last very long against the Japanese because they didn't have the ability to build vehicles. So I suppose the only army you're going to worry about is facing the Russians. For early war, Russians are the ones that are going to make a difference because they seriously outnumber you, and they've got more tanks.
Yeah.
Yeah, the Russians are built for the Second World War. The early war Russian army is built to fight the war. The German army, the Japanese army are not built to fight the Second World War. They're built to fight the interwar period and possibly the end of the First World War. They're not designed for the sort of warfare we had.
Japan actually made it very, very well, not
They
expecting it.
They did. They did quite well.
And they were so close to Australia in the end.
Yes.
But then they got pulled off.
Yeah, they nearly took Port Moresby. So that would have been...
God knows what would have happened if they took Port Moresby.
Yeah, but they couldn't use their tanks.
They couldn't use anything.
No, they were all... by the end, they were infantry powered.
Yeah, but I find it funny though that nearly like 100,000 men versus 10,000 man Japanese army get
the Philippines.
wiped out.
Yeah, that was embarrassing. Especially as they were second-rate Japanese soldiers.
And
they weren't...
Their excuse is they got lost in the bush.
Yeah.
What?
That's mainly due to breakdown of communication. The Japanese attack.
And they had camouflage.
Yeah, and the Japanese are attacking. As you say, they're in camouflage. They know how to use jungle fighting.
And they aren't in the shorts.
Yeah, the Australians were in khaki, which sticks out like a man painted yellow in a wood.
Actually, no, kind of has to. Painted
No, it
red.
doesn't.
Painted red, yes.
No, yes.
Maybe
yeah.
purple or pink.
Japanese used dark green and a sort of yellowy khaki, earthy khaki, which was much better suited to the terrain, but they did dye their clothes dark green as well, which is very good camouflage. They were just more prepared. They knew what they were doing, and the Allies didn't know what they were doing.
No, they're in shorts, for goodness sake, come on.
Yeah, well, that was because the British, the British troops were redirected from. They were supposed to go to the 8th Army and fight in the desert, but they were sent to the Pacific instead to fight the Japanese. So they all had shorts on, and they all got
Malaria.
their legs cut up, got malaria, and died in their thousands. Not due to enemy action, but due to simply being too ill to fight.
Or being terrified and running away and then dying from falling.
Well, you have semi-trained troops come up against an elite Japanese unit.
That's the point. Japanese weren't elite.
No, what? No, in Malaya they were. They were the guard. There was 2 guards divisions in Malaya, so they were the best of the best of the best. Or fresh out of China, so they were really well trained troops.
Fresh out of Japan.
No, fresh out of China.
Oh,
They'd been fighting in China.
fighting.
Yeah, they were 2 years veterans in China by the time they met the British, and the British had never fought. They'd never fought before. And the poor old Indians, they were stuck right out of the front. And these poor Indian chaps with no training whatsoever, they said, you're going on holiday to Malaya.
Well, no,
and suddenly...
they were helping the Allies escape.
Yeah.
So the Japanese had no result but to...
And the worst thing, if you read history books, it sort of pans the Australians, saying the Australians went away, but it was the Australians that fought the hardest. It was the Australians that...
Yeah, the Americans came at the very end.
No, not the Americans, the British. The British, while the Australians were fighting, the British were back in barracks having tiffin and playing backgammon. So it wasn't the Australians' fault, they were sort of left out on a leg, and they did get accused of deserting, but hell, I'd have deserted at that point.
You know the known 1st Night Battalion?
Yeah, that
You know
was...
the lad who runs off,
yeah.
legs it?
Yeah.
I'd be him.
Hmm.
Apart from I won't get caught by getting a bayonet in the face. I want to get caught. No.
Well, you look at the 39th Battalion, which was in Kokoda.
Yep.
They were not first-rate troops, they were engineers. They were bag carriers, paper pushers. They weren't soldiers. They weren't soldiers, they had no training whatsoever. And then they got hit by the Japanese, and they got
Massacred.
slaughtered. Yeah, absolutely slaughtered.
Yeah, because they said, right, the Japanese are coming today, good luck. Well, none of them came back. It's a shame.
Yeah.
You're all dead. Next. Anyone else to spare?
Yes, that's colonial officers. Although the Australian commander in charge of the Australian forces in, I think it was Malaya, he actually ordered his men to fight to the last bullet and then got on a boat and left.
Sounds like Waterloo when he told him to open the gate and then he ran off.
Yeah, he escaped.
Yeah.
And when he arrived back in Australia, he said, they said, why on earth did you leave your men to die? And he said, oh, well, I thought my vital intelligence on how the Japanese fight would be important. Of course, he had no vital intelligence because he was an idiot. He'd never seen a Japanese soldier. He'd been at the rear the entire campaign and ran away when the Japanese attacked. So
I would have been him. So.
Yeah, well, you wouldn't have.
But I wouldn't sacrifice people because I'm a very emotional person, unfortunately.
So you've got these little ramshackle tanks, these little diddy tanks, which aren't particularly good. They're good terrain vehicles. They're better than most vehicles of the period for getting across really rough terrain, which is very handy. It doesn't make any difference in bolt action, but it is very handy in real life because you need, when you're on jungle roads, you need a rugged tank that can go over jungle roads. Most tanks fall apart if you try and go on a jungle road. Look at the precision-built German tanks.
I thought you about to say Pacific German tanks.
No, the precision-built German tanks, absolutely lovely tanks designed to drive in nice Western European fields. And as soon as they hit Russian mud, the tracks get torn off by the mud, the wheels break, they jam, they break down. The Japanese didn't have that problem because they were very simple design tanks, and you could keep them going with bits of rubber band and stuff.
Yeah.
Although another thing that slowed us down in Malaya was the fact that we weren't allowed to use mortars in the woods.
What, 'cause you might hurt yourself?
No, because the trees were owned by private companies, and the British government would have been sued for damaging the trees.
You can't sue the British government.
Yeah, they've been sued. They were owned by companies like. I'm trying to think. Was it Nike? Is Nike around? There was a shoe company that owned trees, a petroleum company, and a motor car company that owned the trees. And I can't remember the names of the companies off the top of my head. It's a long time since I read about it. But they basically told the British governor, "You're not allowed to."
Well, their lives are at stake.
Yeah, they said no.
But you can't hit my tree.
No, can't shoot the trees. Damage the trees, I'll sue you.
I mean, the enemy might take the trees, but still, you can't hurt the leaves.
Yeah, it's okay because the Japanese captured the trees and turned them into rubber. So that was great. So it was great for the Japanese.
What are you going to sue me?
And they didn't pay for it either. They said, "No, thank you. We're just going to make wheels out of this. Thank you." Yeah, well done.
Sounds like something the Japanese would do.
Yeah, yeah. The Japanese weren't stupid. But anyway, that is the end of the video. We didn't go off on too much of a tangent. We did actually discuss the Pacific War, which was good.
And the 39th Battalion. Great film. Should watch it.
Yeah, 39th Battalion is a brilliant film.
Kind of gory, but...
It is rather gory, yes.
Them kind of films should be gory. That's what really happened.
I think war films should show what war's really like.
No, I wouldn't.
No, I mean, guts hanging out, eyeballs hanging out.
Like I said,
men
I
screaming
might
in
be sick
pain.
after.
Yeah, yeah. Because if war films were slightly less heroic and slightly more realistic, people would be less inclined to want to start them.
Or want to join the army.
Well, it's always interesting that the people who start wars are the people who don't have to fight in them. They're the people who get to sit in Parliament and say, "Oh, isn't it wonderful that we can bomb people over there? Oh, some of our soldiers got killed. I don't care."
You don't know how they got killed, though, do you?
Yeah. So if a member of Parliament wants to declare war on a country, then he should be in the first line of soldiers going in there.
Like,
or at least
like Gordon.
Yeah, like Gordon. Gordon made a point of being there at the front.
And died at the front.
And died. Yeah. Well, he learned. But yeah, if there's a situation you're going to do, it's insane that it's the young men that die who don't get a choice.
So it's just like the guy in Last Samurai. He never dies. In every battle he's been in his whole life, he won't die.
Oh, the American chap.
Yeah.
Oh, what's his name? Begins with a H, I think.
I know, he was found drunk in a pub.
Gordon found him drunk in a pub. Yeah, he fought in. He died in China in the end.
He finally died, yeah. Took him long enough.
He blew up a bridge while he was stood on it to stop the Taiping troops getting over it. Yeah.
I actually prefer Taiping than Quinn.
Really?
Yeah.
You know, Taiping were pretty messed up people.
So the Quinn, they're both messed up.
Well, they were both messed up, yeah. The Taiping were pretty weird. They were.
I would prefer to fight alongside none of them.
Would you have supported the Imperial Japanese government or the samurai, the Satsuma Rebellion?
Both, so I wasn't killed.
So whose side would you be on?
Both.
The American backed Imperial government.
I'll be on the samurai side.
Right. So you go where the money was.
Would I?
Yeah, because in the end it was the samurai that won, even though they lost the campaign. They lost the war.
Oh yeah, because the emperor.
Yeah. They put the emperor back on the throne for political reasons, and that's kind of turned Japan into a fascistic, militaristic state.
And then stopped America from getting their little contracts.
Yeah, cut America out of the contract and bought weapons off of Germany instead, and the British. Yeah.
Yeah, because he did say in the beginning of the movie though, why not I just go to a cheaper manufacturer?
Yeah. Why
Germany, England, France.
Why buy from America when you can get cheaper and better goods
from Europe?
From Europe. Factoid, deal with it. Right. That is
most of the people watching American.
I'm not insulting the Americans. I'm insulting the people who were around. 150 years ago when all this was going on. There were some particularly stupid, greedy people involved. And the Germans and British were just as greedy and stupid.
You always were.
Yeah, it was especially the British. Especially the British.
An empire.
Yes.
You'll be greedy and stupid?
Yes, the empire was rather greedy and full of stupid people, but run by stupid people. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, this is what the Japanese. The reason the Japanese were so successful was because they had help from the British government.
Yeah.
Japan had so many spies in the British government that half of Parliament was working for Japanese companies. So the Japanese knew all of our troop movements, all of our airplanes. The Indian guy in charge of intelligence in Singapore, in the Malayan campaign, was a Japanese spy. Every time he changed the code, he transmitted the new code to the Japanese. The Japanese knew every single order we were issuing. Every time Percival gave an order to his troops, it was relayed to the Japanese. So the Japanese knew everything we were doing. They knew when the ships left the harbour. They knew when troops
We're
were
going to
moving.
surprise attack them. Oh, thanks
Yeah,
for telling me we're
we
going to
never
surprise attack you.
surprise attack them. The only troops that ever managed to surprise attack in the entire campaign were the Australians.
That's because they were hidden bushes.
Yeah, the Australians went out, they didn't report to British High Command, they went straight into the bush, and a load of cyclists came down the road, about 2,000 cyclists came down the road, and they machine gunned them all to death.
And until the next Royal
Yeah,
Cyclist.
but that was the first victory we had. Because
First victory.
we lost every single battle to that
3
point.
years in, one victory.
Oh no, 3 years. This was in the first 6 months of the war. First 3 months of the war.
3 months, and Japanese have won every single one
Yeah,
by one.
Japanese won every single
Nice.
battle. Yeah. The only time the Japanese were stopped at any other point was the Indians. The Indian troops formed a gun line with 25-pounders, British 25-pounders, and the Indian troops holding the trenches at the front.
Yeah,
And we stopped the Japanese for about 6 days. We stopped the Japanese for, or they did.
6 days.
Yep. Held them for 6 days. The Japanese realised they were going to get killed if they charged, so they got on boats again and sailed around the back and
No.
did a new naval landing.
Whoever the general was, he was a very smart guy.
The chap in charge of the Japanese.
Yeah.
What was his name?
I do know it was very furious when High Command tried to withdraw.
No, that was in Kokoda. The chap in charge of the Japanese in Kokoda they were just about to take Port Moresby, and he was ordered to withdraw,
I want to listen.
which was unbelievably stupid.
I would do this. I'm trying breaking up shop. Oh no, he said we should charge.
Japanese officers didn't tend to disobey orders
I know it didn't.
because they came directly from the emperor, technically. So,
And the Emperor would have killed them if they did.
and also he didn't know what the other guys knew. So for all he knew, there was a Royal Navy task force about to shell the port. He didn't know what his superiors knew. As it was, his superiors didn't know either. So his superiors were just getting paranoid.
Well, they should have realised that they were winning.
Yeah. In Malaya, the Japanese commander was a particularly good commander. He was a very good commander. Whose name escapes me again. My brain.
Yeah, I know.
And with all this stuff that's going on, I just cannot concentrate.
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff going on currently.
Yeah, we're about to move house, which is unbelievably complicated, and also we've just finished our lovely gaming room, and now we're about to leave. So
Yeah, I might find a better one.
yeah, but
Well, we're taking this table with us.
yeah, we're going to take a table because it's my table and I built it.
You're the one who's going to have to deconstruct it. I'm not. I can't bother. I've already packed everything up in my bedroom, so...
It's designed to come apart.
Yeah, I'd like to see you put it back together with your brain.
No, it is actually designed to come apart. So I built it with it in mind.
Yeah, yesterday I looked at the video when we were still constructing it.
Did
I
you?
looked like I was full of depression.
Yeah, you were. But you were not happy. Anyway, that's another story. We'll have to do some videos. In fact, we'll have to do the Malayan campaign, won't we? Because that is a brilliant campaign to do.
Yeah.
It's nice seeing the British get the backsides kicked for once. You noticed how
No,
practically...
we always get our backsides kicked in films.
No,
It's always the Americans who need to get that. I should say that.
Britain is the only country in the world to celebrate their biggest defeat. The biggest defeat...
What, Dunkirk?
Yeah, the biggest defeat suffered by the British Army in history. An entire army, not a regiment in Nizanduana, not all these other little places that we lost, little tiny battles, the Khyber Pass and all that. No, they were tiny battles we lost. No, the biggest one ever was the entire British Expeditionary Force running away and blowing up all their tanks, spiking their guns, and literally running onto a beach and going, "Help! Help!"
We actually stood steadily.
Yeah, we did run away, right? We ran away.
We walked away.
And we got our asses completely handed to us on a plate, and we celebrate it every year as, look how well we did running away.
Because we got our soldiers back. We actually saved our soldiers, which wasn't supposed to be able to happen. They were supposed to all die, but we actually saved
We
them
weren't
all.
supposed to die. We were supposed to beat the Germans as well.
Looking at what the photos look like, I think they were supposed to die.
We advanced the wrong way. We advanced towards Britain to escape. Instead of advancing towards Berlin, we should have advanced towards Berlin, but it just wasn't in our heads.
Because then they would have done the exact same thing. Put our house and start playing.
Well, it's Gort versus Rommel, and Rommel wins on IQ points, so Gort was a bumbling idiot, so there we go. Anyway, that is the end of the video because we're going to talk for hours about
You said
stuff.
that is
Yes, I know I did, but you started talking again, we all got confused and everything's... Anyway, that's it. Goodbye. Thank you. Thank you for watching. Over to him for the
So if you
talk
enjoyed this
bit.
video, please do like and subscribe, and comment down below what you think of 1st Knife Battalion. It's a pretty good movie, I think. Yeah.
We're not talking about 39th Battalion, we're talking about the tanks.
1st Knife Battalion. Right, that's it for me.
And that's everything from him. Goodbye.